Hello viewers! My name is Sarah Van Horn and I'm the Public Affairs Officer here at U.S. Embassy Freetown, and I'm joined by my colleague. Kate, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Kate Chigude. I'm a Consular Officer here at U.S. Embassy Freetown, and I'm really happy to be here.
And today we're going to answer all of your questions about one of our most popular topics, the Diversity Visa Program. So, Kate, can you tell us what the Diversity Visa Program is?
The Diversity Visa it's an immigrant visa program, and it allows people who enter the program and are randomly chosen to immigrate to the U.S. on an immigrant visa. About 50,000 diversity visas are granted each year to selected countries.
So what are the requirements? How do you get one of these visas?
So, in order to be qualified to obtain a diversity visa, you need one of two things. You need to have passed, number one is you have to have passed the equivalent of a high school diploma in the U.S. And what that means in Sierra Leone is you have to have passed the WASC or your O-levels. You have to have passed in 5 subjects. One of those subjects has to be either math or English. And you have to have gotten at least credit or better, so like C6 to A1.
So I know some people were asking because there's been a change with universities here where they only you can have just 4 credits.
Right.
So can you clarify, for the diversity visa, it's still 5 credits,
It's still
right?
5 credits, so we have heard that rumor as well. It hasn't been confirmed yet. If there's an announcement made that this is officially, that 4 credits are allowed, then we will also change our requirements.
Okay,
Yeah.
but until we get that official
Yes.
announcement from the government,
Yes.
for now it's still 5.
5 credits. And then I wanted to add that one of the ways is to have your high school equivalency, but the other is through work, through your employment. So if in the last 5 years you've worked in a job for 2 years that took 2 years of training, education to get, that can also qualify you for the DV.
Great. So if you're an electrician, for example, who hasn't gone to university but you had trade school or you had training for 2 years,
Yes.
and then you worked for 2
Yes.
years after getting that training, then you are also qualified.
Within the last 5 years, so recently.
Got you.
Yes.
So when can you register to apply for the diversity visa?
So the Diversity DV 2024 is opening October 5th for registration. October 5th, 2022. And it opens from October 5th, 2022 to November 8th of 2022. And where you need to go is dvprogram.state.gov to enter.
And you'll see the websites that we'll talk about here coming up on the bottom of the screen. So just wait for it to come up and it'll say DV program. And then we'll also have a link to the travel.state.gov website where you can find more information about the diversity visa in general. And we can show you a little bit of that later on. So we've seen sort of different websites that are claiming to help people get the diversity visa.
Right.
Sometimes there are fees. How much does it cost to apply for the diversity visa?
So to enter for the diversity visa, it is free. There is no charge. And the only official website is dvprogram.state.gov. So if you go to a website that is offering services for a fee, or you get an email or anything like that, it is fraudulent. You do not want to give them any money. You can absolutely enter yourself. It's very easy. You go to dvprogram.state.gov. You enter your information, and then you receive a confirmation number, and that's the number you need to save to find out if you won. And you can do it yourself. You don't need a fixer to do it. It's a simple, straightforward process.
So you go to the website, you enter all your information, and you say you get a code, right?
Right.
So how do you find out that you were selected?
Right. So again, you will never receive an email or a letter. You have to go find out yourself if you've won. So what you do is, starting in the beginning of May of the following year, so it will be May of 2023, you will go back to the same website, dvprogram.state.gov, and there will be a place for you to enter that confirmation number, that code that you got, and that will tell you. You want to keep checking it all the way till the end of September of the year, and you can check it daily, weekly, and then you'll find out whether or not.
And if you have applied in previous years, can you apply again?
Yes, you can apply every single year. You can only apply once per year, but you can apply every single year.
Important. So if you weren't sure that it went through and you're trying to do another one, you shouldn't do that because that'll disqualify you.
Exactly.
So some people have asked in the comments, I applied in 2021 and it said I was selected, but I wasn't able to come to the visa interview. So what about those cases? Are they still ongoing, or what happened there?
They're not. So at the end of every fiscal year, the DVs for that year expire. So say you had a DV in DV year 2020, so your number would have been 2020, and then the rest of your case number. That that entrance rather, that DV win expired the year 2020 and September 30th, 2020. So all the DV 2022s that are being interviewed right now will expire September 30th, 2022.
Great.
So if you have any entrance that's before 2022, it is expired and you'll have to enter the DV again.
Okay, so if you are one of those people who is commenting, asking about your 2021 case, the answer is it's time for you to reapply.
Yes.
And then what were the dates that you can reapply again?
Right, so October 5th, 2022 to November 8th, 2022.
And those are the only times you can apply?
The only times.
Great. So when you apply, what are some of the things that might disqualify someone, or what are some of the things that might make someone especially qualified? I know someone was asking what can improve your chances.
Right. So the things that will make you disqualified, one we already talked about, which is entering more than once. However, if you're married, your spouse can enter and add you as your husband or wife, and vice versa. You can enter and add your spouse. So that's technically 2 entries, entries. But you can only, each individual can only enter once. And then another thing that can disqualify you is when you enter, you need to include your spouse and any unmarried children under the age of 21. If you do not, that will disqualify you, even if you're separated from your spouse. If you're legally married to the person, you have to play with that person,
right,
along with all of your children.
So what if I had a child who was maybe 19 and they wanted to stay at university here and they didn't want to immigrate? Do I still need to put it on my application?
Yes, you do. You have to add them even if they're not going to immigrate with you.
Got you.
And if they don't go within that 6-month window, so your visa will only be valid for 6 months. So say they still decide to get the visa, they cannot get another one. So they would have to make a decision about their education. I also wanted to add that, again, if you don't meet the educational or work requirements, that'll disqualify you for the DV. Submitting fraudulent documents, like fraudulent educational documents, will disqualify you. And also bringing in a spouse that you don't know will disqualify you, like
right,
someone you just married.
Because that's considered visa fraud, because it's
Yes.
just for the purpose of immigration.
Yes.
On the topic of spouse, I know we had one comment who was asking, in some cultures, and including some people in Sierra Leone, have more than one spouse.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit if someone has more than one wife, for example, can they bring both, or can each of the wives apply separately and include them on it? Can you talk about that?
So technically, polygamy is illegal in the U.S. and only, so if you're the husband, you can only play with a wife.
Yeah.
And you can also be disqualified from the DV for having multiple spouses. So you can only play with one wife, and then only one wife can play with you.
Right.
So, and then, sorry, can I go back to something?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, you'd asked me what makes you more qualified for the
Yes.
DV? Yes,
Mhm.
yes, I just want to make sure I covered that. There's nothing that'll make you more or less qualified for the DV. It's just a matter of, do you meet the educational or work requirements for the DV?
Because it's a lottery, it's random,
Yes,
right? So
yes.
it's, you either have the requirements or you don't.
right.
And there's not someone who's going to be,
No.
more qualified or less. If you have a PhD
Right.
or a master's, that doesn't make you more qualified. Everyone just has to have the same requirements,
Yes.
and then it's a random pull of the numbers.
So if you just have a high school diploma, but the next person is a doctor, you're just as qualified as the doctor.
Right.
Yes.
Great. So you talked a little bit about visa fraudulent websites. Was there anything else you wanted to add on the visa fixer point?
So we know a lot about visa fixers in Sierra Leone, and that they will often, so people entering will go to visa fixers to enter for them, and then the fixers will hold on to their code or their confirmation number and say, okay, I won't give it to you until you pay me this amount of money, or you marry this person you don't know, something like that. So please don't use fixers. They end up making you not get a diversity visa because, for example, you come in with a spouse you don't know, things like that. You don't need a fixer to enter the DV. It is very simple, and we've talked about the website a few times, but dvprogram.state.gov, you go in, you enter yourself, you keep your confirmation number, then you go back in May and you check it. You can do the whole process yourself, and then you won't get wrapped up in a situation where you're paying a bunch of money that you don't need to pay, or not getting the visa because you've done something fraudulent.
One more question I wanted to add, and this was something that I think we got the most questions on when we were asking people to submit their questions. In the past, you've needed a passport before you can even play the DV lottery, before you even know whether or not you've been selected. What is the current status? Do you need a passport?
You don't need a passport anymore.
Great.
So I know that makes it a lot easier because a lot of people don't have passports. If you don't travel, you don't have a passport. So now you do not need one to enter.
But you need it if you get selected for an interview?
Yes. Once you get selected for an interview, you're going to have to obtain a bunch of documents, including a passport, your birth certificate, things like that. That's sort of further down.
Yeah. But just to apply to see
now.
if your number is taken, you don't need a passport.
No, you don't.
That's great. I'm going to pull up a website very quickly just to show people. There is travel.state.gov. You can see the website down below right now. You can find a lot more information about the diversity visa, the process, including about all the other different types of visas that we have. So I'm going to pull that up on the screen really quickly, and you can see sort of the information that you can get if you want to read more detail. So you can see there we have, you can go to step 1, submitting your entry, to the selection, to what you do if you're selected, confirming your qualifications, submitting your immigrant visa and registration applications, etc., all the way to the interview and getting your visa. So you can find that information at travel.state.gov, and if you search for immigrant visas and the diversity visa program, you should find a lot more information. So if you have more questions, please check out that website and you can get more information there.
I wanted to add one more thing. If you have any questions about whether something is real or not, you can always email cons Freetown fraud at state.gov. That's CONS Freetown fraud at state.gov.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We'll put that in the comments too, so
Yeah.
people can find it. So after you put in your application before the deadline in November, if your number is selected, you have to go to the website with your code to see if you're selected, because we're not going to tell you.
No.
You have to go and look it up yourself.
You have to find out yourself, yeah.
So what are kind of the next steps if you're selected?
So you find out that you're selected. So the first thing you're going to do is submit your application. And we can put that website, I assume, on in the comments as well, because it's a little bit long. But you'll submit your application. We'll put the link in the comments. Once you do that, then you're sort of turned over to, it's called the KCC, it's what it's called, Kentucky Consular Center. And they will start emailing with you. That's when you will start. So once you've won, you have to find out yourself if you've won, but once you've won and you've submitted your application, then you will start to communicate with them via email. They're going to start to ask you for things like your birth certificate, a marriage certificate, police certificate, things like that. And what happens is, at that point, is you have to become documentarily qualified. They won't send your case to us for an interview until you've given them all the documents they're requiring. Once you do, then the case gets sent to us and you interview in Freetown.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So some people have asked, we had some viewers who live in different countries. I think there was one person who was living in UAE, but they're Sierra Leonean. There was someone else who was living in Japan and had a very complicated story. So what are the requirements, like what citizenship do you have to be? What country do you have to apply in? If you're Sierra Leonean and you live in another country, can you apply? I know if you're Nigerian, can you apply for the DV? I know we get those questions a lot.
Yeah. So yes, you can apply in any country in the world. You can apply anywhere that has a computer, right? So you can, wherever you are, you get a computer, you go on the website, and you apply. You can interview in your country of residence. So say you are Sierra Leonean, but you work in Dubai, then you can interview in that that country, right? So the difference is your passport country and your residency country. So again, you can apply in any country, anywhere you can find a computer, and then you can interview in your home country or in your country of residence.
Got you.
Yeah.
So for the person who is asking, they're living in UAE, do they have to come back to Sierra Leone if they are selected and get the interview? And the answer is no,
No.
right?
Right.
Awesome. I think we've already, can you enter if you haven't yet graduated from high school or gotten your WASC results yet?
So those are the minimum requirements. There's no
Okay.
age, so even if you get the WASC at you're 16 years old, you can still
Okay.
apply and obtain an immigrant visa. We actually had someone like that
Wow.
last year, very young. Yeah, I was like, where's he gonna live? He's so young. But he did qualify. So no, until you have obtained either the required WASC scores or the
So you have to get the scores, or you have to have the employment
Exactly.
requirement, which
Exactly.
is 2 years experience working in a field where you had to get 2 years training,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Got you. We had several questions about the photos.
Yeah.
Can you take the photo yourself? If you take it, can you crop it? And you're not supposed to Photoshop it. You're not supposed to,
No, you can't
change what you look like. But can you use Photoshop to crop it? What do you have to say on the photo requirements?
So you can take your own photo. There are a lot of very specific requirements, and I would say my suggestion is to go to a center, sort of. There are a few around the embassy that know the specific requirements, so you'll get it exactly right, because you don't want to, make a mistake and then get disqualified. But there, the requirements are like, it has to be a white background, can't be wearing a hat or glasses. It's a 2 by 2 inch by 2 inch. It's like 51 millimeters by 51 millimeters. No teeth showing. What else? Color can't be more than 6 months old. So there are very specific requirements, but you can do it yourself if you can, make sure that you've done it correctly.
So, to be sure, I see Ahmed asking, is it possible to use Photoshop to make the background of the picture white? Since that's changing the photos, that's probably not okay. If you needed to crop it, maybe, but it sounds like it's probably best to go to
A shop.
A professional shop to get the photo.
You don't want to
done.
Photoshop anything in the actual photo.
Yeah,
I'm just talking about size or not wearing glasses, but you don't want to Photoshop the glasses out or anything.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So because that's a disqualifier,
Yes.
right? If you submit a photo that doesn't meet the requirements. Someone was asking, they're deaf, or maybe they have another disability. Can you apply if you have disabilities?
As long as you meet the requirements, the educational requirements or the work requirements, of course you can enter the DV. And we'll do everything we can to accommodate you. If you're a deaf applicant, you can bring a translator with you. And yes, absolutely.
If someone is not Sierra Leonean, can they interview in Freetown for the DV lottery?
If they're a resident of Sierra Leone. So if they live in Sierra Leone, they have residency here, they can.
What if they're a nationality that's not usually included in the diversity visa program? Like if they're, I know we often get questions from people living in Nigeria because there's a lot of people who immigrate to the United States from Nigeria.
Right.
So they usually don't meet the requirements for the diversity visa because one of the requirements is from a country
immigration.
with low immigration.
Yeah.
So, but if someone were from a country of high immigration, but they were living in Sierra Leone as a resident, can they apply?
So I don't know every country that is included in the diversity lotto, but the diversity visa program. But no matter where you live, it's based on your nationality. So if you're Nigerian and Nigeria is not included in the program, then no, you can't move to another country and then apply. So it's not based on where you live.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. So yeah, it's based on your citizenship.
Yeah.
Someone was asking about can they change the interview location if they applied when they were perhaps living in one country and then they moved to another. Can they change the country that they do the interview in?
So at that point, you'll be communicating with KCC, which we talked about earlier, in Kentucky Consular Center, and you would work with them to change your location. People often do because of, for whatever reason, they're working in another country or what have you. But it's if you can get an interview in your home country, I would say take it because especially right now there's a huge backlog and some embassies are not able to see all their DV applicants. So I would say get the interview where you can, and then,
Perfect.
go to it.
I'm checking our comment feed here. Just going to confirm you do not need a passport,
You don't need a passport.
to apply. Now, if you are selected, you will need it later once you come to
Yes.
your interview, because you need a passport to put the visa in. But to apply, you don't need it at this time. I'm seeing the question again about how many credits are needed for the WASC results,
Right.
and at this time it's still 5,
It's still
right?
5 right now, yes.
Awesome. Someone was asking about, could you talk about the picture size, quality? Could you go over the picture stuff just very briefly?
I can, but I mean, I don't know if I've covered every single. It would be something to check on the DV website, because the things I'm listing off are sort of the things I can remember off the top of my head. But I would say that it's probably best to go to a shop that can take the picture for you. But yes, it's 2x2 or 51 millimeters by 51 millimeters, white background, in color, no glasses, no teeth showing, no hats. What am I missing?
I think you can find more of that information if you go
Yes.
to travel.state.gov, where you go to the visa information, and it'll have
Same.
the information about what's required for the photo.
Exactly.
I'm seeing Francis is asking, what if you're single when you play, but you get married afterward? Are you allowed to take your husband along?
You are.
Great.
Yes.
Awesome.
And there was one that we talked about earlier that I wanted to just mention as well. So people were asking, like, they've won in previous years, but they never got interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wanted to comment on that. So they allot about 50,000 visas every year. So there are a number of reasons. So more people win than actually get the visas.
Mm-hmm.
So more people are selected that, and that's for so either they ran out of visas before the person got an interview, or the person wasn't documentarily qualified before they got the interview, or the embassy where they wanted the interview didn't have enough
Visa
appointments to accommodate
Right.
everyone. So those may be some of the reasons that you never did get the opportunity to interview, even though you were selected.
Yeah, so it is possible to be selected and to not get it at the
Yes.
end based on whether or not you submit the right documents
Yes.
and meet the documentary requirements, whether or not the country runs out of visas,
yes.
and
Or appointments.
or appointments.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let me see. So someone from Ghana is joining us. Whether they're asking if they can get their interview or transfer their case to a different embassy other than their home country. I think we answered that, right? You reach out to KCC if your process has already started, and you can talk with them about changing the location.
You can talk with them, but you need to be a resident of that country. So because there are a lot of people trying to find appointments right now because they haven't been, because of everybody sort of opening back up after COVID, and so you have to have residency in that country. So say you move to Sierra Leone to work, for example.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Someone is asking if they applied now, when will the shortlisted list be out? So basically, when would they find out if they were selected?
Right.
I
May
think.
2023.
Right, and they have to log in
They have
to
to
the
go
website.
Exactly.
Great.
Yeah. They have to check dvprogram.state.gov. They have to check themselves, and so don't. If you receive an email or anything like that, it is fraudulent. You will have to go and check yourself.
Someone's asking if they can apply from Pakistan. I think we've spoken about this. If you have a nationality that is one of the qualifying
Yes.
nationalities, it doesn't matter where you're living.
No.
So if you're Pakistani, I don't know if Pakistani
I don't know either.
people are eligible for the DV lottery, but if you're Sierra Leonean, we know Sierra Leoneans are, and so if they're living in Pakistan, yes.
So if you're a Sierra
they could
Leonean
apply.
living anywhere in the world, you can apply.
Awesome. Someone was asking about if there are any age requirements.
So yeah, and I touched on that earlier. So no, if you meet the requirement, the WASC, the high school equivalency requirement, or the work requirement, you can be any age. So even someone who's passed the WASC in 5 subjects, who's 16 years old, would qualify for the DV.
Someone was asking about whether or not their boyfriend or their girlfriend could be considered a spouse.
No, you have to be legally married.
Great. Yeah, we're seeing more questions about, do you have to have the passport before you apply? No, you don't. If someone has skills but they don't have the WASC requirements, that's not negotiable, I'm afraid.
No,
right?
yeah, it's not.
Let me see.
And this is just a suggestion, but if you're entering the DV, you could also take the WASC right now.
That's true. You have time.
Yes.
What about if you had your results without mathematics or English, or without either mathematics or English?
You need one or the other, and just, again, you could retake it.
Yeah. So if you didn't do it before, you could retake it. And do you need both, or you just need one or the other? So either mathematics or English.
Yeah.
If you have both, fine. It doesn't make you more qualified.
No. It's just you're qualified or you're not.
Exactly. Let me see. So after selected, what guarantees someone to have a visa after you're selected for DV lottery? That's a great question. You're not guaranteed,
No.
right? Yeah.
No, it's obviously if you're selected, that's great, but there are many steps along the way, so you have to become documentarily qualified, submit all your documents, get a visa appointment, go for your interview.
Great.
Yeah.
I saw some people asking about COVID and corona conditions preventing people from various things. What are the current COVID requirements, if anything, for someone who's trying to emigrate to the United States?
You have to have a COVID vaccination.
Right.
And you would get that during your medical. So one of the requirements for the DV Lotto or the DV Diversity Visa program is that you'll have to go get a medical exam, and you'll get a COVID vaccination.
If you haven't gotten one already.
Yeah, if you haven't gotten one already.
Yeah. But regardless of whether or not you're interested in immigrating to the United States.
You should get a COVID vaccine.
Exactly.
Yes.
Someone was asking if they can use their diploma certificate to apply if they don't have their complete WASC results yet.
No, they have to have their WASC results.
Yeah. Can you apply if you don't have any friends or family in the United States?
Yeah, you don't need to know anyone.
Perfect.
You don't need to know anyone. So obviously that would be something to think about, like where you're going to land when you move to the U.S., but that would be something to figure out. You could figure out along the way.
Yeah.
If you got the visa.
If you have like a master's or a university's degree, do you still have to submit WASC results?
You do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just trying to see. What about, can your results be submitted for more than one sitting?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Good to know. Is the lottery winning based on country? Meaning, is there an equal number of prospective winners in each country?
So I don't know the sort of how they figure out how many are allotted to each country.
All right, we should be back. Sorry about that, guys. All right, let me go back to the questions.
Yeah. So what we're talking about. There are a select number of countries that are qualified for the DP, and that's because they have low immigration rates.
Right.
And I don't know how many are allotted. Each country is allotted a certain number, but I don't know how many go to each of the 50,000.
Right.
They're split up amongst many countries.
So can someone apply if they have children? Can you apply as a family for the visa?
Yes. So when you enter, you should enter with your spouse and all unmarried children under the age of 21. You have to. If you don't enter them, and then it turns out, you disclose, I do have these kids, that will disqualify you from the DV.
Got you.
They don't have to immigrate with you if you don't, but you have to.
You have to put them on.
You have to put them on.
And if you're married, then you can apply for yourself, and you can put your children, and you have to put your children and your spouse. But then your spouse, assuming that your spouse also meets the requirements, the education requirements, they can apply and then have you listed.
Yes.
Yeah, people are asking if they can play again if they've tried in the past. Yeah.
Yes, every year. Just
every
one
year
time,
you can do it.
But each year, yes.
Can someone apply for you?
Well, so that often happens, right? So people go to internet cafes and pay someone to apply for them. So yes, you can have someone help you, but again, it's a slippery slope if you start to pay, for example, a fixer, and then they hold on to your confirmation number. But yes, people can enter for you.
What if you are a winner? This is Ampum's question. If you're a winner and the 30th of September comes and you have not been interviewed, can you still travel?
No. So on the 30th of September, that's why this 30th, just in a few weeks, is going to be very busy for us. It expires. So if you don't have the visa in hand by the 30th of September, then then you have to go and enter again next year.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can't travel to the U.S. unless you have the visa in your passport.
And you will know you have the visa because you'll come for your interview, you'll turn in your passport, and then we'll give it back to you with the visa.
Exactly. So people who are attending college right now, can they apply?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But they still need their WASC result.
Yes. We have many people who come in who are students, young, and are studying.
What if the name on their birth certificate is different than their name on an educational certificate or their, their equivalent of a high school diploma?
So the biographical information should match. I mean, if you can explain a reason, like say for example you got married and your surname changed,
right,
then that would make sense. But if it's something where the birth certificate is completely different, then that'll put into question, is this a fraudulent document?
Mm-hmm.
You want your documents to match.
Yeah. So you'll need to be prepared to
Yes.
provide good evidence as to why that person named on that certificate is the same person as you.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me see. And we've talked about this before. Do you need a passport before playing? No, you don't. This is a new change, right?
Yes.
Just this year.
Yes, yeah. It was just implemented for a few years, and now it's been rescinded.
So if someone's parents add them on their application because they're their child, can that child also apply in their own right?
Gosh.
If they have the requirements, right?
If they have so the parent would be playing, and the parent has the WASC, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But then the child is 18 and also has a WASC. Yes, then the child could then have his own application or her own application with her qualifications.
But the child can't put their parents on theirs.
No.
Yes, because you can only put your spouse
yeah.
or your children under the age of 21.
21 and unmarried. Yes.
Yeah. Someone is in the United States and they're asking if they can apply for their younger brother. Can he apply for him, or does he need to apply by himself?
Yeah. So he can go onto the DV website, state.gov website, and apply for him. Yes.
Great. Again, there was a question about sort of trade schools. I think we can summarize. We don't want to be too repetitive, so I'm not going to keep asking the same questions over and over. But if you don't have the WASC result, the only other option is if you have 2 years of work experience in a field that required 2 years of training. Right. So if you're an Ocado driver, for example, that doesn't need 2 years of training.
Right.
So so that, unless you also had a WASC result.
Yes.
If you had a WASC result, then that's fine. But if you don't, then that probably wouldn't make you eligible. But if you are an electrician, for example, and maybe you went to trade school, or you had like a nursing school thing, I think most people who go to nursing school would have a WASC result.
Yeah,
but if there was some sort of trade field where you had 2 years of training, then you'd still need 2 years of experience, but then you could still apply. So that's the only exception where you can go if you don't have a WASC result.
And so how it works is we have a list that's sort of, applies the same to every country, that we check your work experience and training against to see if you meet the requirement.
Great.
Most people come in with WASC or O-level scores.
Yeah. I saw again people were asking, do they need math and English? You need one or the other, but you need one of them.
Yes.
Yeah. People were asking about whether the green card can be delivered to a mailbox. So if you get this, do you get a green card right away?
No, so you get your immigrant visa.
Yeah.
All that is done in the States. So once you get to the States, they do send you the green card. It comes in the mail.
But we don't handle
We
the
don't
green
do any
card
of that.
here.
What you get from us is your packet that has your passport with your visa and all of your documents in it. And that's what you take with you when you get on the plane and when you enter the U.S.
Great. So someone was asking, since the passport's not a requirement, how could we distinguish between someone who has put in multiple applications? Because I think they're asking is, how do you tell that those are from the same person? So
when there are repeat applications, they're weeded out before we even get them. So and they have, and there's some sophisticated technology, like even people who try to sort of change their appearances in their photos, right? Wear wigs, different makeup.
Yeah.
They have algorithms like computers that can spot, repeats. And then so then you never even get the chance to win because, You're taken out
you're
of the system.
ineligible.
Yes,
Yeah.
before you even,
Someone's asking if they can apply with their siblings and their single mother. So I think if the mother were to apply, and if all of her children were under the age of 21 and were not married, then yes.
Right, and the mother had the required.
And she had the requirements, yeah.
If the daughter was, say, 18 and wanted to apply, no, she could not apply with her siblings and mother. She would have to apply alone.
Right. Apply this. Can you do the application at home without going to a cafe?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You should do it at home.
Yeah. We highly encourage people to fill out the application themselves because it is possible, and then you avoid the issue of visa fixtures.
I think that's a really... Okay, just want to expand on this a little bit because that's a really important question and comment, because you should do it at home. You should do it on your own. There's no reason for you to go to cafe, and it seems like in Sierra Leone people think they have to.
Yeah, it's not true.
No, they don't. You don't need any help. And in fact, when you go and you pay someone to help you, that can often get you in trouble because sometimes they will charge you large fees. Sometimes they will try to make you marry someone that you don't know. And that
sometimes they fill out the form wrong, and then it's not even the right information.
Right, all the time.
Yeah.
And so that will only, hinder your chances.
Someone is asking if their spouse also needs to have a completed WASC.
No. So only it's called the primary applicant, only the person entering needs to have the WASC. So your spouse doesn't have to, unless he wants to enter separately. But if he's coming as your spouse, then no.
Great. Again, someone was asking about using Photoshop to make the white background. If you are manipulating the photo through changing the background, that will likely result in a disqualifying picture because you're not supposed to alter it. So if you have the setup to take a photo that meets the requirements, and you can read all of the requirements at travel.state.gov if you go to the visa information, then you can try it, but you're probably best off going to a place. So
they know what to do.
Don't go to a shop to fill out the application,
go to a shop for
but
your photo.
do go to a shop to take the photo if you can.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not a requirement, but you're more likely to not have something that the system will automatically disqualify, right? Because it's not even necessarily human beings that are looking at these pictures, right? The machine will look at the photo and will be able to tell if the photo meets the requirements. Right. And if it doesn't, then it just is automatically disqualified. And that's not Kate's fault. That's not my fault. That's your fault for not getting the right photo.
Yeah, go get the right photo, because there's shops there's shops around the embassy that they know the requirements, right? So then you won't have to worry about any of that, because in the grand scheme of things, all the money that's going to go into moving to the U.S. to buy a photo is minuscule.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. This is a great question, and I'll answer this because YALI's my thing. So if you've submitted your application for the YALI program, are you eligible to apply for the DV program? So the issue with YALI and other U.S. government exchange programs is the visa that you travel to on that program is a J1 visa. And yes, and so if you are, so you could apply for YALI and DV potentially, but know that if you are selected for the DV, you cannot be selected for YALI and vice versa, because if you go on YALI, there's a requirement that you, or on any other U.S. government exchange program including Fulbright or Humphreys or Tech Women or SUSI or any of the other programs that we've done, you will then have to come back to Sierra Leone and live here for at least 2 years, because the purpose of these programs is not for people to emigrate. The purpose is for them to go make connections in the U.S. and then bring them back to Sierra Leone. So that's why these two programs are incompatible. So I would look at one or the other, but that's what I have to say on YALI.
But if you hadn't already traveled on your J1, and you won a DV, for example, you got your visa, then you could technically
choose to do that instead.
Yeah.
But you couldn't do both.
Yeah.
If someone has a high school, if someone went to high school but they don't have any work experience, can they apply?
Yes, as long as they pass the WASC with the required scores.
Yeah. What if you went to school in a different country?
So yeah, that's okay. So again, it's about having a high school equivalency. So we do see DVs that either are from other countries or went to school in other countries. So oftentimes we are not familiar with the document, so we just check with that embassy. Oh, does this meet the requirement? If they say yes, it's fine.
Yeah. I think someone was asking if they had went to high school in the UK, if they had completed the equivalent of a American high school
Right.
in the UK.
Yeah.
That's okay, even though they don't have the WASC, as long as it meets that same
Yes.
requirement.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, people are asking a lot about the photo requirements. I would look at the travel.state.gov. There's look it up there, and honestly, I would reiterate her advice to don't try to do it yourselves. Not because it's impossible, but because you're more likely to make a mistake that will accidentally automatically disqualify you. And so for the photos, it's good to go to a shop. If you didn't get the DV before, does that negatively affect you?
No, not at all.
You can play as many times as you like.
Yeah.
Let me see. Private candidate for high school. Education requirements. Yep. So I see that some people have just joined. So this video will be available. You can, instead of us repeating, we've repeated some of this a lot, but you can go back and watch it from the beginning. If you missed it from the beginning, you can hear all of our answers to the educational requirements. And again, lots of questions about passport photos. We've addressed that quite a bit, so I would watch from the beginning of the video and you can see all of that. Apply with their children. Can someone apply with their children without the child's mother if they're not married?
Right, if they're not married.
Yeah, yeah. So in fact, you couldn't play with the mother.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you're already divorced or if you had children with someone and you weren't married, if you're playing, you can, if you're not married, then you would just play with yourself and your children who are unmarried under the age of 21.
Yes.
And then the children's mother could also play separately
Yes.
if she wanted to, and then also put the children on.
Yes.
But if you are not married, then you would not play with her. But if you are married, you have to.
Right. And
Right.
obviously, even if you're not married and then you can't play with her, you want to get the other parent's consent to immigrate. with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
children.
You have to put them on the application.
have to.
But in order to actually travel to the U.S. with the children,
You
the
need
mother
that
would have to say
consent.
it's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So people are asking about the DV link. It should be it should be coming up on the screen. You can see it's dvprogram.state.gov. It was just up on the screen. And I'll say it just one more time. It's dvprogram.state.gov. That is the only official
Yes.
website to register for the DV program. So
Yes.
any other website is not
And
real.
there are many not real ones.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of scams around this.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there any space on the form to fill the type of trade skills that you have?
Not
I don't
real
think
ones.
we care there's a
about
lot
that,
of
do we?
scams.
No.
Yeah, as long as you just have to meet
Is there
the
any space on the form
to fill the type of trade
which
skills
is
that you
the,
have. I don't think we
yeah,
care
there's a
about
lot
that,
of
do we?
scams.
No.
Yeah, as
And
long
Sierra
as
Leone
you
is
just have to
WASC.
meet
Is there
the
any space on the form
to
to
fill
fill
the
the
type
type
of
of
trade
trade
skills
skills
that you
that
have. I
you
don't
have?
think we
Yeah,
care.
there's
There's a lot of
experience.
experience.
Yeah,
As
and
long
the
as you just have to
WASC.
meet
Is there
the
any space on the form
to
to
fill
fill
the
the
type of trade
trade
skills
skills
that you
that you
have.
have?
I don't
Or,
think we
yeah,
care.
there's a lot of experience.
Yeah,
And
and
so
so
if
if
someone
someone
is
is
there
space
space
on the form
as
to
we
fill the
talk
type of
about
trade
the
skills
skills
that you have. I don't
Or,
think we
yeah,
care.
there's a lot of experience.
Yeah,
And
and
so
so
if
if
someone
someone
is
is
there
there
space
space
on the
to
form to
fill
fill
the
the
type
type
of
of
trade
trade
skills
skills
that
that
you
you
have.
have.
I
Or,
don't think
yeah,
we
there's a
care.
lot of experience.
And
And
so
so
if someone is there space on the form to fill the type of trade skills that you have.
Or, yeah, there's a lot of experience.
And so if someone is there space on the form to fill the type of trade skills that you have.
Or, yeah, there's a lot of experience.
And so if someone is there space on the form to fill the type of trade skills that you have.
Or, yeah, there's a lot of experience.
And so if someone is there space on the form to fill the type of trade skills that you have.
Or, yeah, there's a lot of experience.
If you feel that someone is there space on the form to fill the type of trade skills that you have.
Or, yeah, there's a lot of experience.
If you feel that someone is there space on the form to fill the type of trade skills that you have.
Or, yeah, there's a lot of experience.
If you feel that someone is there space on the form to fill the type of trade skills that you have.
Or, yeah, there's a lot of experience.
If you feel that someone is there space on the form to fill the type of trade skills that you have.
Or, yeah, there's a lot of experience.
If you feel Okay, how is it now? I hope it's better. Sorry about that, guys. I hope that the background is better. I made a change. We are using this for the broadcasting for the first time, so I know that there are sometimes different technical difficulties, but I think it's better. Awesome. Sorry about that, guys. We got it. So again, I don't think we were having those sound issues at the start. So if you were having issues, take a look at earlier in our video feed, and you shouldn't be having those same problems. Someone was asking what the documents are required. I think there's no passport that's required,
No.
but you do need your photo.
Yeah.
You do need to fill out the form.
Yeah. Those are the only two things at the beginning.
And then at the beginning, do you need to already submit your WASC results or no?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So you submit the WASC results later on.
Yes.
But you need to have them when you apply?
Yeah, well, actually, no, you actually don't.
Oh, okay.
Even after
Tell me more.
Yeah, so there have been instances where people who didn't know, okay, my WASC score wasn't quite high enough, they took it again before the end of the DV season and passed.
Okay,
Yeah, and
okay.
they were still qualified.
So you can apply even if you retake the WASC.
Yep.
So can you apply before you've taken the WASC if you intend to take your WASC before the season ends?
Gosh. You're supposed to come in with what you think is a passing WASC score or a profession that qualifies you for the DV.
Okay, at the moment that you apply.
At the moment that you
Okay.
apply. But the problem is that many people don't know this wasn't a passing score or this
Right.
job didn't qualify me for the WASC or for the diversity visa, and they did retake it before the end of the
Okay.
DV season.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but you still you definitely need a WASC in
Yes.
order to go,
Yes.
or the
Qualifying
job.
work.
So you still definitely need that. So if you haven't done it yet, take it now. Is
Yes.
what you're saying. But
Yes,
again,
take
you
it now.
don't. You do need the photo. I'm not going to go over the photo requirements again. We've talked about that quite a bit. Go to travel.state.gov, but really go to a shop that can do a professional passport style photo.
Yeah.
You don't need your passport, but you do need to
And
fill
all
it
the
out.
other documents you'll need, you won't need until you're selected, and then you'll start to submit like your various civil documents. But before that, you won't need them.
Yeah. I see someone was asking again about if they have a university degree, do they still need to submit their WASC results?
They
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. If someone has a non-immigrant visa, can they participate in the DV program?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would participating in the DV program
Right.
result in their non-immigrant visa being canceled?
No. So, but I will say that, when you come in for a non-immigrant visa, right, you're trying to overcome the immigrant intent, meaning that and we all know this, you want to prove to the consular officer that you're going to come back to your country of residence, return to your country of residence. So some officers may see multiple DV entries as some kind of signal that you do want to stay in the U.S.
Right, right. So if you are applying for a non-immigrant visa, or if you are traveling on a non-immigrant visa and you've applied a lot for the diversity visa, you should be able to explain that.
Yes. So
Yeah.
look, I do want to immigrate, but I wanted to go, on an immigrant visa. This time I'm just going for this wedding for my brother, whatever.
Got you. Let me see. Someone was asking about 2NLs for Ghana. I don't think this is... We can't answer that. We're just talking about diversity visas for Sierra Leone. I'm sorry. You could maybe reach out to the embassy in Ghana and ask that question.
And we are only can speak on educational documents for Sierra Leoneans.
Yeah.
If we had educational documents from other countries, we would have to then send them to the relevant embassy to be verified, because there's 200 plus countries.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're here in Freetown. I know
Yes.
that there's some people joining us from outside of Sierra Leone, but we can only speak to what we've our experience here.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing a lot of similar questions, but I think if people go and watch the video from the start, they'll have answers to them, because we've already answered most of them. But do you have any final thoughts or issues where what's the biggest issue that people have here, or the biggest mistake that people make?
I think for Sierra Leoneans specifically that it's using fixers that get them into trouble, right? So using fixers that provide them with fraudulent educational documents. We do check all educational documents. Using fixers to bring on a fraudulent spouse. That can get, I think, if there's any take-home message, don't use a fixer. It is easy to enter on your own.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it from anywhere, your house, someone else's house. You don't need to go to a cafe, and then you can check your results later on. You can do it on your own. It's not difficult, and it will keep you from getting disqualified because a fixer got you in trouble. It'll also keep you from paying a bunch of money to a fixer.
Right.
Unnecessarily.
But then for the photos, perhaps do use a professional.
I would go to a shop. So again,
Yeah.
to immigrate to the United States, you're going to pay, when you come in to do your interview, you will pay a visa fee of $325. You will have to get a medical report that costs $400 plus. You will have to get a plane ticket to go to the U.S. These are thousands of dollars. You can maybe spend $1 getting a photo.
Yeah, the photo is not
Yes.
expensive, but
Yes.
you want to avoid being automatically disqualified because you weren't able to create a photo that met the requirements.
Yes, specifications.
Yeah. So I think that answers most of our questions. I know there's people asking more, and again, if you have specific, I saw someone put their case number. Don't put your case number in the chat. Reach out to the consular. We can't answer specific cases here.
Consular Freetown at state.gov. You can send it to.
Is it consular or is it cons?
Consular Freetown
Consular Freetown
at state.gov.
at state.gov.
If you have a question about a specific case.
About a specific case.
But this is
Yeah.
from 2017. This one that just was put up.
Yeah.
2017 expired
It's expired.
September 30th, 2017.
Yeah, so that person would need to apply again.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, I'm seeing a lot of people asking about the high school versus university. You do need the WASC, and you do need your marriage certificate if you are married. You need to get it if you don't have it already. All right, so I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that this was useful. Again, what is the only official website that people can
Right.
apply? It's
dvprogram.state.gov. At state.gov.
.state.gov.
At state.gov. I said .state.gov.
No, for the website it is .state.gov.
Oh gosh.
You're getting confused with the email address. Yes, I know. It's been a long day.
dvprogram.state.gov.
We've been on air for almost an hour now. But yes, the website is dvprogram.state.gov. Awesome. Great. Well, thank you guys so much, and I hope it was useful and informative for everyone, and best of luck if you choose to apply.